Why, hello there, Rib City. Welcome into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by I don't even know. I don't want to call you super producer. I feel like there's got to be something better. It's got to be something better than that.
I mean, that one was used by an old host of the morning show, so we can switch it up and come up with something different. But good to see you again, Chris. I was just telling Chad when we did the drive. It feels like forever since I've seen you guys. But hey, it was literally just Friday or Saturday night at Moda Center. Awesome fifth quarter. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Hey, of course. Like I said, if you're in there, might as well come chat and talk some Blazer basketball, my friend, because it's fun. It's absolutely fun. And hey, I am in your position quite often too. And it's way more fun to get a chance to chat without having to push buttons at the same time. It's way more fun.
It's
true. But welcome in to Courtside. And we got a fun show planned here. Obviously going to talk a little Blazers here to get things going. And then my good friend Alex from the Unbiased Blazers Podcast will be joining me around 6:20. We're going to talk Blazers with him. And I sent out a tweet earlier today. We got a good lineup because I scheduled out Courtside for the rest of the year. So let's hear this out for everyone who's marking their calendars. Okay, this is important stuff. All right, so we got Alex today. Next week, live in studio, I'll be joined by a good friend, Oliver Maroney. He's been around the NBA for a while doing various things, and he's going to come in and talk shop. Then on the 27th, we're going to have Tara and Rose of the We Have a Take podcast, big popular podcast here in Portland, which is also gets an award for one of the most uniquely awesome named podcast. Brenden, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's the We Have a Take podcast, aka the What podcast. So every episode title is like, "What about Denny Avdia?"
And it's like, yeah, for sure. It's creative.
It's smart. It's like Friends, like the one where Ross goes to camp or whatever the hell
It's
they want
true,
to name him, right? Then on February 17th, Brandon Goldner of We Like the Blazers will be joining us. Then on March 17th, Tori Jones of Blazers Uprise YouTube channel will join us. Then on March 24th, good friend of the show, Jamie Hudson. Peyton Davis will join us the week after that. You guys know him. And then we'll end the year. Well, not really end the year because we got one more episode after that. But with my boy Trailcaster Keith. So we're having a good list of people coming in, having some fun. So mark your calendars. And if you want to join the show with me, you know what to do. 503-248-0620. It's always right there. You can hit me up on the DMs too. Maybe you just hit up Chris J. Burkhardt on social. You're like, hey, Burk, I want to get in. I want to host that show with you. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's make it happen. I'm a nice guy. I am if I were a wrestler, I'd be like The Rock. I am the people's champ, Brenden. Speaking of the people, if you're watching on YouTube, I got the Yeet shirt on today. I got to stand up a little taller because I'm short. Shout out Timmy Hammock. As he types in the chat. Well done. I wore it just for you, hoping you'd watch. And yes, how about the debut of Penta on Monday Night Raw? Raw on Netflix is absolutely phenomenal. It's a beautiful thing. Who doesn't like it? But let's talk Blazers here. And, of course, we're going to have Alex from the Unbiased Trailblazers podcast here in about 15 minutes. But the Blazers, they returned home over the weekend to face the Miami Heat. It was Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Night, which was pretty awesome for yours truly, being, having ties to the Hawaiian Islands, which is where my grandparents were born and their parents before them, and have a lot of family there still. So it was pretty awesome. We had a representative of the Kalo HCC, who was the, featured group of the evening, come join us on the show. And they helped the Native Hawaiian population around the world in the Pacific Northwest and all that stuff. They do great things. If you want to go check that interview out, it is on our YouTube page, so go check that out for us as well. But the Blazers fell to the Miami Heat in that game. That wasn't fun. It was a 119-98, and that was a loss coming home after a 5-game road trip that had its ups, it had its downs. It's weird. It feels like it was forever ago, but that was a road trip that started in Los Angeles, saw the team go get a win against the guy who used to be the face of the franchise, right? Go out and get a win against Damian Lillard and then stumble a few more times before they come back home and dropping games, quite frankly, that they could have won, should have won, and would have won had different things happen. But they ended the 5-game road trip, 2 wins, 3 losses. They had a loss against the Pistons. That one stings. A loss against the Mavericks. That one stings. Guess what? They all sting, and now they are losers of 2 in a row and they will take on the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday. So what does it all mean? How are things going for your Portland Trailblazers now that we're sitting at, roughly like ready to look at this thing and go, okay, we're almost at the halfway point, right? We are 38 games in, 41 would be the halfway point. We're right there. How are things looking? Well, the Blazers are, as fans have pointed out to me in some chats we've had today, they're not bad enough to be bad and not good enough to get out of being bad. And what do I mean by that is like this is a year where everyone is talking about tank, right? They got to tank. Capture the flag, right?
I mean, he is pretty baller.
ACC record for a freshman, 42 points. Yeah, he's pretty good, Brenden. He is pretty good, right?
I mean, I get, all I'm saying is I get what you're putting down, Chris, but I also get it because it's like, he's not Wemby, but like a degree of separation, 2 degrees of separation. Like
he's
it's
good.
Definitely not last year's
No one's
draft.
Wemby. No one's Wemby. No, this draft's better than last year's draft. It's a deeper draft than last year's draft. Top heavy was last year's draft where it was about 3 or 4 heavy. Well, people want to poo on Scoot. I'm not there yet. Oh man, Thompson's rounding into form. Brandon Miller's been a stud, and obviously Wemby has been Wemby. But you look at the standings right now, fans, and give you an idea of where things are. Well, the Blazers are currently struggling. We know that. 13-25. That is the 3rd worst record in the Western Conference, and it is tied with Brooklyn, who will basically be here, or who will be here in 2 days. It's basically tied a little percentage point away for the 6th worst record in the NBA. So if the season were to end right now because of the percentages, Brooklyn has a slight leg up in, being the worst team. So Portland would end where? Familiar territory. 7. Haven't we been there before? Shaden Sharp and Donovan Clingan, the 7th overall pick, right? And of course, we know what that means. 7.5% chance of getting into number 1 overall spot. Work has to be done, right? On the plus side of things, friends, family, well-wishers, you get upset when the Blazers win games, but New Orleans, Toronto, and Charlotte, who are all currently tied for the 2nd worst record there, they're just 8-win teams. So Portland is roughly about 5 games back, right? You lose a couple, they win a couple, things match up. With still 40-plus games to go, I think you're okay. Now, if you go rattle off a bunch of wins in a row, maybe you're hurting just a little bit, right? Maybe you're hurting just a little bit. But in general, things are looking all right for the Portland Trail Blazers. And again, the run for Cooper Flagg, who I think everybody wants, everyone would love. And is he going to be good? I think he might. I think he very well might, because he's turning heads and doing things incredible there at Duke right now as a freshman. Like we said, ACC record, 42 points a few games ago. So he's doing great things, and he would look good in a Blazer uniform. But this is a draft that's deep enough that the Blazers are going to be able to find people in it. It just might not be what you want. And also, that's where the rough part of deciding to tank versus not tank and what you're going to do is a struggle, right? Because you would be hard-pressed to find any Blazer fan that would be happy if a tank season leads to another 7th overall pick, right? You want to get in on that top 3. You want to ideally get in on that number 1. So you got to figure that out. And the best way to do that in the long run is to get some of these vets out of the way, whether it's Grant or Ayton or Sharp or a mix. Hand the keys over to Tumani and Ayton and Clingan. And at that point, that unit, I think, plays well. We've seen it. We've seen this unit with Tumani and Denny playing well. I thought they played well against Miami. Where did they get their losses? Not because their young guys are terrible, but because they have no depth after that. You're not going to win a lot of games when you're playing Dwap Reith and Ryan Rupert and Justin Minaya off the bench. You're just not. But that puts you in a good spot if you're saying, getting into the lottery is where I want to be. But when you got Jeremy Grant going out there and DeAndre Ayton going out there and Anthony Simons going out there, now your bench guys are, a little bit more adept at what they need to do, then maybe you sneak some wins like you've seen happen here before. So it's pick a lane time. It's pick a lane time. And I think for the most part, we have an idea of where the Trailblazers want to go. That would be young, right? That's what we've been told. That's what we believe. But now it's just a matter of, can they do it? Can they get off of any of these contracts prior to the trade deadline, which is just a few weeks away? February 6th, 2025. Can they do it? That's the tough part. And when everyone's sitting there going, oh, this is an easy contract to move. It's hard. It is going to be hard because of the new collective bargaining agreement and the way the apron and the second apron are set up. Moving contracts is just not as easy as we thought it was going to be. It's going to be ROUGH. No. RUFF. Rough. That rough. You like that?
I do.
RUFF rough.
That's rough. Like how I used to say, like, Chris, it's not tough. It's TUFF.
TUFF. TUFF.
Classic.
Tough.
I love it. Yeah, good smile on my face over here, man.
Well, you're welcome. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Again, this whole apron thing and getting contracts out and where are you going to go? I think if you look at these contracts, my friends, I think in order. Not necessarily what I think is going to get done. I just think in order of what's going to be easiest to get out. I think Jeremy Grant is the easiest to get out without question. I think the second is Ant. I think the hardest to get out of the big three right now is Ayton. That contract with the production is just it's not a match. It's a rough one to put together and figure out where you want to go with it. Are there teams that want those centers? Quite possibly. But at the same time, Brenden, think of a team that we've mentioned a few times, okay? Charlotte. Charlotte making a lot of sense, needing a center, a good pick-and-roll guy, pair next to LaMelo. Well, there's another team that has a center that they're trying to ship out who's coming at a much cheaper price tag, and his production isn't terribly different, and that's Yusuf Nurkic. So maybe Charlotte gets in on that because, A, they're like, hey, we'll take a guy off your hands, help us out for a minute, and if you're Phoenix, that helps you figure out the whole trading stuff because you can get some contracts to where you want them to be. Keep an eye on things like that because those are going to matter. And if a team like that goes and gets Yusuf Nurkic, that's a team that could have used DeAndre Ayton who comes off the board.
Yeah, see, Nurk's still hanging around, man.
Nurk is
still impacting the Blazers one way or another.
Helping or hurting.
Yeah, right, one way or another. But yeah, that's interesting. Definitely a good call and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because the point is, Brenden, is you're not necessarily looking at just the teams that the Blazers that could use DeAndre Ayton or Jeremy Grant. Looking at the teams that could use a Yusuf Nurkic, quite frankly, right now. Looking at a team who could use a Chris Middleton, even. Because could trading a Chris Middleton help the Bucks fix their finances and get to a spot where maybe they can get back in play for a Jimmy Butler or what have you? And again, I'm not breaking down all the contracts right now. I know what's hard and what's not. But the point is, watch those other things. Because why I bring up Chris Middleton, because if a team is looking for a Jeremy Grant, then I'm pretty sure Chris Middleton could fill that void too. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things you got to watch out for. Because it's not just cut and dry. Blazers got these guys to get out. They're going to come in. Boom, we're good. You got to think about how everything is locked in. Speaking of locked in, Eric Weldon says he's going to be locked into his computer on trade deadline day. Sorry, work. Yeah. That's where I'm fortunate enough that, like Brenden, when everyone else is locked into their computer on National Signing Day, he's like, yeah, so am I. I'm getting paid for it, baby.
I know.
I'm getting paid. Aaron Weldon says, I saw the Suns were interested in Dwop. Nurk or nothing in that deal. Okay. Well, you want to take Nurk back for Dwop? Send Ayton back out. Nurk can just be your savvy vet backup and things are all good. Is that what you want? I don't know about that. That's probably not what you wanted. I probably took that totally wrong. I'm having fun with you guys. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, though, if you've ever listened to the Unbiased Blazers podcast, good on you. If you haven't, you're missing out because this guy knows what he's doing. He had a great podcast. His last episode actually had Coach Yim on. That's right. You guys know Coach Yim. We're going to talk about that and plenty of other stuff. Where does Alex think the Blazers need to do come trade deadline time? We'll find out when we talk to him here. Coming up on Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Very excited now to welcome my friend Alex, who I haven't talked to in forever. I just reached out. I'm like, hey, you want to jump on the radio? And he's like, yeah, stranger, why not? Is this even really the real Chris Burkhardt? How do I know it's you? And then we exchanged our secret handshake and text messages to prove our identity. And here we are. Alex, welcome in to Courtside Monday.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
On the YouTube chat right now, friend of the show, Eric Weldon, he's like, is that the podcast that posts the surveys on Reddit all the time? I'm like, yeah, that's Fawad, the one Blazer fan in Toronto holding it down for the world.
Fawad's a madman with those surveys.
Who just jumped in on the YouTube chat, by the way. So shout out to Fawad, who I haven't talked to in a bit. That means you got to get me back on the podcast too, my friend. You got to reciprocate here.
It's coming.
That or some Dead by Daylight. We need to have some fun. But let's quit the small talk, the icebreakers, and let's get to it. First off, before we talk about what you think about where the trade deadline is going and all that, let's talk about that fancy podcast of yours, man. That episode you guys released about a week ago now, maybe, if I recall, with Coach Yim, who is obviously very well known here among fans in Portland, who was on Terry Stott's coaching staff. A phenomenal guy, man. How'd you nail that one down, and what was it like to get a chance to talk to him?
Fawad's been trying to reach out, and he finally went for it, and he sent Coach Yim a message, and we were so excited to see a reply from him, but we knew that he also had the New Zealand Sharks coaching job coming up. And so we were a little worried about timing on how to get him on the podcast. And we kind of just reached out to him. He responded saying he was into it. And then we kind of just said, whenever you're free, we are more than willing to accommodate and work with you to get anything, anytime we can get you to talk. And that hour we spent with him, we actually spent a little bit more. There's a lot of stuff you guys didn't get to hear. It was so much joy listening to the stories he had, talking with him, the experiences he had. I mean, if you have not listened to it, Coach Yim is 10 out of 10. That was so fun talking to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone should be listening to it. When you're done listening to Courtside, go on to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to find a podcast. Go find the Unbiased Blazers Podcast, where my guy Alex and Fawad, they're holding it down. But Alex, now let's get to the skinny of things. How you been feeling here lately, my man? I mean, the tank is here, but it's only in like front wheel drive. It's not in full 4-wheel drive off road yet. The vets are playing, the young guys are playing, but probably not the way a lot of people want. How are we feeling for the Blazers almost here at the halfway point?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where it's at. For me, watching these games, the biggest thing for me is I just want us to be competitive, whether we win or lose at this point. Like, as long as we're competitive and we're building something that, we can all see on the court, to me, that's the most important thing. There are definitely games where it does not look like we're competitive. I think the last week and a half or so, we've definitely had some more competitive games. But to me, if we're embracing this tank, I want to see what we have in these young guys. I want to see I still, like you, I'm still not, waving the flag on Scoot yet. I want to see what we can do with these young guys and not have to rely on these vets that we got. I enjoy Jeremy Grant, I enjoy Simons, but I think it's time to fully dive into this young team and see what we have.
Yeah, absolutely. See what you got. I get what you're laying down there. Speaking of Scoot, man, what have you seen that you liked? What have you seen that you don't like as you analyze his play here for a year and a half in now?
Yeah, I mean, to me, you see flashes. You see a lot of flashes of why he was drafted so high, why he was sought after. I think some people have this idea that he was supposed to be the Dame replacer, and I think that's not an expectation we should have. He's a great playmaker. You talked about it on a couple of weeks ago about when Robert Williams is in there, when Klingon is in there. Like, the pick and roll is so much better when Scoot's out there with those two who are diving to the basket. He's a creator and he can create for us. I don't fully think he's got like the full opportunity to do it at a consistent rate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's best with the ball in his hands and creating rather than looking for shots. He'll find his shots, but I think when people come to terms with the fact that he doesn't need to be a 20-point per game guy if they build this thing out right, that will be the best version of Scoot we get.
100%. I would love to have him at like 15 to 17 points a game and 8 assists. To me, right there, that's like solid point guard play. You got Shaedon Sharpe, who's, in my opinion, going to be a beast as long as we can get him to be a little more aggressive. You got Toumani Camara, who's one of my favorite Blazers right now. I love that dude. There's just so much that we have that I just feel like we're not utilizing yet, and I think Scoot is the key to get that going.
Absolutely. I got to point out, too, the dedication you have to coming on and joining me here, because I just clicked with me that I'm surprised you said yes to come on here when the Vikings are playing.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sitting right now with it on my iPad, and it's a rough game already, so I'm not missing out on anything.
Well, it's okay. I have it on the TV in front of me as well, so we're both here doing it and watching football because you know what? We're just sports junkies over here,
That's
Alex,
right.
and I love it. Again, this is my boy Alex from the Unbiased Blazers podcast. You guys can go find that wherever you guys download your podcast. When we're done here, it's definitely a great listen. I want to get your thoughts now, Alex, on Shaedon Sharpe. Now, you know, I have compared his rookie year and last year. He reminds me, and I know you're going to love this because this is your boy, he reminds me of a young Tracy McGrady. Now, I'm not saying that is his ceiling. I'm not saying he completely plays like prime T-Mac, but if you go back and watch young T-Mac, he kind of looks like that. How hyped are you on Shea, and do you see any of your boy T-Mac in him? Because we do know that your favorite player all time is T-Mac.
Well, I love that you just brought up T-Mac. It just makes me happy to talk about him anytime. But I'm going to be completely honest. When we first drafted him, I will be honest with you, I was not excited for it. But I am so glad I was wrong because there is something about Sharpe. You can see it. Not only is he just a highlight reel waiting to happen, he can create himself. He can create shots for himself. I can 100% see how you could see a young T-Mac in him. I think he's got the athletic ability to do anything he wants on the court. I think what's holding him back right now is just his ball handle is a little bit less than what you probably would want to see. But I mean, he is so special. We're lucky to have him. He can be a player for the next 10 years that can be a very, very good player for us. He's still so young. He jumps out of the gym. He can shoot. He can score in the mid-range. I mean, he does a little bit of everything that you need. We just need a little bit more aggressiveness out of him, I think. I feel like he gets a little passive sometimes, and then there's other games where he'll just take over. So I love Sharpe, and I'm so glad you said that he reminds me of T-Mac.
Yes, and he does. I do like him. And I also think you're spot on there, man, because one thing I've noticed over the last few weeks, and even in that game against Miami, like he had a chance. I know the ball got kicked out to him. He's sitting there on the wing, and just a wide open three, and he just hesitates, and then he doesn't take it, and he waits, and he waits, and then he starts to dribble, and it just slowed everything down. So you're right, just take the ball and shoot it. And the other thing I really do believe, and it's what you hinted out there, is the ball handling. Because if you compare him to guys like, I know it's easy because he has the one Kobe Bryant shot, the little back to the basket turnaround jumper. It's Kobe and MJ-esque, right? But you compare him to even a Kobe, you compare him to a T-Mac, you compare him to a Brandon Roy, anybody else of those. They all had one thing in common. They could put the ball on the floor and handle it and create their own shot. And he's just not there yet. And if he can get to a spot where the handles are consistent and he can create his own shot, that's going to keep the defense guessing and opening up for everything else he does well. And I think that takes him to the next level, right?
100%. I mean, I think a lot of times there's just this hesitation of he's trying to decide, should he shoot? Should he try to score? Should he try to play make for somebody else? And I want that killer instinct, kind of what I want to see with Scoot as well, where I just want Scoot to attack the basket. Like, I just want that with Sharpe as well. He's so gifted athletically, he can do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree. Now, Alex, before we get to the trade deadline stuff, which there's some important stuff there, there's one more key player I want to talk to you about, and that is Donovan Clingan. I myself have been very, very vocal about not liking the days where he's only playing 8 minutes. I want him out there, and if he looks like absolute garbage, I don't care. I want him to learn, and I want him to get better. But he has shown some flashes here about possibly being a defensive anchor for years to come, and some very, very good flashes on that end. And he gets up above the rim now and then too. But man, what's not to like? What have your thoughts been about Clingan through his rookie season?
No, I mean, you said it best. Like, we're getting just like this small sample size of him, and we want so much more because we see that potential there. He is an absolute menace guarding the basket. Like, if someone comes into the lane, that he is there to block a shot or at least challenge it. And you can't help but be excited to watch him out there. I mean, that game where he had a near triple double with blocks, and he had finished with like 8 blocks. Like, those are the kind of that's what makes the fan base love that type of player. And he may not be the greatest offensively, but like you said, he can finish at the rim. He can get those alley oops. We've seen a lot of it. I am so excited for him. I think he's an absolute beast. I mean, he's 7 foot. I think he's taller than 7 foot, actually. I mean, he's just a huge human being. That guy can dominate in the paint.
Yeah, Donovan Clingan has the rare ability, Alex, of making big adults, big basketball players look small. Like, it is a rare ability. Like, he makes big players look small. It's unreal.
Well, and also he comes from a winning. He's got that winning culture, and that helps with these younger guys who may not come from that, or come from the G League like Scoot did, or who's Sharp, who never really played in college. He's got that winning culture in college already, so that also helps rub off on these players.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And speaking of winning culture rubbing off, I think that's something that happens with Robert Williams as well, because obviously that winning pedigree coming from Boston and such. I just need him to play more, because I think he's more vocal as a leader when he plays. Like, I think he's more the type, like, I don't have to speak up, I'm not playing. But when he plays, I think people gravitate towards him. What are you thinking about him? Because he seems to be a hot commodity. There's a lot of, Blazers should trade him because there's value there. Teams are going to want him. Playoff teams want a center like that. Of course, there's 8-2. Like, Robert Williams in the trade deadline and anyone else. Like, what are your feelings on him and where the Blazers need to move here with the deadline coming up in about, 3-4 weeks here?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want Robert Williams? I mean, he does a little bit of everything. He is high energy. He can score offensively. He's a great defensive player. The biggest issue is his health. And, it's something that I'm honestly concerned about. He hasn't played a lot of games for us. But when he is out there, he's so impactful that it's like, we can't just give him up for just something because of his health issues. Like, I would rather roll the dice and keep him than just give him up for just anything. It's got to be something good if we're going to give up Robert Williams. And in all honesty, I don't know if I would want to give him up. I would much rather give up DeAndre Ayton, like you've mentioned in the past. It's going to be much more difficult, but to me, Robert Williams brings something to our team, and that's why all these other teams want him. He's a special player. It's just a health issue, and it is worrisome. But sometimes you roll the dice and you live with the results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one thing that gets a little, like, not overshadowed, but just not talked about enough is the fact that, like, if I'm a young guard in Scoot, I think the best way to get him developed is to have your centers all play a similar game. And Robert and Donovan play a similar game, and it's completely opposite of the type of game that Ayton wants to play, right? It's it's roll hard to the rim, not pick and pop. And they set harder screens. They play and give your playmakers positions to hit them at the rim. So doesn't it make sense to want to keep the two guys who play a similar brand of basketball? So whether Scoot's in with the starters or the bench or what have you, things tend to go the same offensively.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of the screens that DeAndre Ayton are setting are not doing anything. And then he kind of floats to the mid-range. So I 100%, you got Scoot driving to the basket, and then you have your center kind of lagging back. So having a player in Robert Williams who attacks the basket off of a screen, Clingan who does the exact same thing, that helps build confidence, that helps build habits, and it helps to open up the whole court when you have someone diving to the basket constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, you've talked about, Ayton and that, and Grant. I know Grant's a hot commodity. Like, say the Blazers are trading Jeremy Grant tomorrow, and you're sitting in the GM seat. Like, what are you looking for? What's your asking price? What do you want back?
It's tough because I love Jeremy Grant, and I so wish we had him back in the Dame timeline. I think he would have been a excellent piece to have with Dame. And so it's so unfortunate that we have him now and it's not necessarily aligning with what we're doing. So it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I just want a young player and some kind of pick, because to me he's worth so much. I heard on one of your episodes you talked about, like, you know, him being a fourth option on a championship team. Whatever team he goes to, if he's the fourth option, that is going to be a dangerous team. Like, if your fourth best option for offense is Jeremy Grant, I mean, that is a nasty combination. So to me, you have to at least get a solid young prospect if it's going to any championship contender team, because most likely the pick you're going to get is going to be a later round pick player to their roster. So to me, it's got to be a solid young prospect at minimum if you're going to give up Jeremy Grant.
And I think something you said there, Alex, is key too. Is like, I think when the team is playing bad, it's very easy to automatically think that all your vets are bad too, right? Well, it's just not the case. There's so much going on with this team and how rotations are used and the just the continuity, and then how players match with each other, that leads to sometimes not great basketball. But I think Jeremy Grant is the type of player that if you're putting him in, and I'm just purely hypothetical, not saying it's a team he's going to, but say you put him in a Golden State, say you put him in a Milwaukee, say you put him in an Oklahoma City, those teams are better off for having that type of player on their roster. You know what I'm saying? So back to your point about, like, he has value and you want to make sure you get something back. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he has value on our team right now. It's just, unfortunately, the value is not what we need right now. And so it's like, it's not like we're trading a bad player away just to get rid of a bad player. Like, he is a very, very good basketball player, and it pains me to see him go, not only because he wears T-Max a lot of the times, but just you love watching him play. He's good defensively. He may not be the greatest rebounder, but he can shoot. He's one of our better shooters. He can score. He can play defense. I mean, it's hard to lose a piece like that, but when you're kind of rebuilding, that's a piece that you don't necessarily need right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and I apologize because things are getting bloody in this Rams Minnesota game. Okay.
You know, we're focused on the Blazers season from now on, 'cause clearly the Vikings have checked out.
Hey, you made it, okay? I'm a 49er fan. We had championship aspirations, and then the floor fell out, and the floor fell out after that. We didn't realize we were on, like, the 5th floor, and every floor fell out, and we landed in the basement, and it hurt a lot. So, yeah, at least you're in the playoffs. I'm also a Duck fan, and that sucks too. So, you know what? Can't always be winners, and it is time to focus on basketball. But this is Alex of the Unbiased Blazers Podcast. I did mention he was joking a while back. Well, not really joking. He's like, do we need to rebrand? If we need to rebrand, what should we change our name to? And I do think that the More North podcast still needs to be in play as long as Fawad is your co-host.
I mean, it's a solid name, and with Fawad being from Canada, it fits perfect.
It absolutely. I don't even get this guy. Air Weldon. Does Alex play 13 points in 35 seconds to sleep soundly at night? What does that even mean? What'd I miss?
I mean, I'm gonna tell you this right now. The amount of times I have watched that video would embarrass most people. I mean, it is ungodly on my playlist of how many times I've watched that.
Yeah, see, the thing is, when I say, what does that even mean? It's like, I don't have anything fun like that in my fandom right now. Okay. I just sit in a deep, dark hole, and it's all painful.
Are you telling me you don't know what 13 and 35 is?
I said I know what you're talking about. I'm saying I don't have anything like that in my fandom to watch on repeat. I guess I can watch. I guess my equivalent would be like Brandon Roy hitting the shot to put the Blazers ahead, then foul Yao Ming, and then get the next one. But yeah, T-Mac with the Rockets, dude. Come on, I know what we're doing here.
Can I tell you a quick funny story about that moment?
Yeah, do it.
I got free tickets to go to that game, but I only got one ticket, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I don't want to go if she can't go. This is probably my last time to see T-Mac play. I'm just going to stay home and watch it on TV, and then that happens.
Okay, that's brutal.
It was rough.
When I first got in the business, Alex, when I was working at NBC, then Comcast Sportsnet, My boss hired 2 producers. I was one. And we split which games we went to. Boss picked. And my boss gave me the night off, the night that Dame hit the .9 shot against Houston. And I never let my boss live it down. And then he promoted me to full-time the next season, and I never missed another Blazer game. So I guess it was worth it.
It worked out.
It was worth it. And, of course, I know everyone's picking on me. Like, Air Weldon's like, he's talking about Tracy McGrady. Like, I know. I was trying to just razz him a little bit because I know he's into this, and apparently my jokes didn't fall. That's why I'm not a comedian. I'm a sports talk host. All right, Alex, thanks so much, man, for taking the time. We got to do this a little more often. I'll get you back on. I got to jump on the podcast with you guys, but you're always welcome back. Hopefully, maybe your Vikings can do something miraculous, but you know what? I'm here for you. We'll talk hoops for the next few months. We'll get through this. All right, bud?
All right, I appreciate it. Go Blazers.
That was my boy Alex from the Unbiased Trailblazers podcast. Him and Fawad, who was in the comments, host that bad boy. Head on over to wherever you download your podcast, type it in, get a listen. Their last episode with Coach Yim, absolutely phenomenal. Good little peek behind the curtain from a guy I know a lot of Blazer fans still hold in high regard. We're going to take a quick break here, though, on the show. When we come back, I don't know. We're going to look at what the Blazers have coming up and if they can either tank or win or whatever they need to do. We're going to talk about it coming up on Courtside. And your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. welcome back in to Courtside Monday. I almost said Blazers game day, and this is definitely
Force a habit, right?
not Blazers game day. We're having some fun here. Big shout out to my buddy Alex, who joined us there for a little bit. He is a co-host of the Unbiased Blazers podcast. Go give that a listen. They do a great job, and like I said, their last episode with Coach Yim, pretty awesome, man. Coach Yim is good people. Portland's fortunate to have him for a short period of time in his coaching career. Now he's getting some head coaching gigs down there in New Zealand, which is pretty awesome. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also go over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and get in on the YouTube chat where we're having some fun over there. We're having some fun. Is my camera on, Brenden? I was going to put something on camera. I just want to make sure we're on. Because, hey, and Brenden, just so you know, sometimes my producers, when I check on them, they're like, oh, no, I messed up. I'm like, dude, I get it. I sit in your chair. It's busy back there. But we were talking about this in the YouTube chat. It's the only reason. This had nothing to do with my ugly face. It was just this, because I got this bad boy. This is going to be available at Thursday's game against the Clippers for 7,777 fans. Get this beautiful shade and sharp glass.
Yeah, that's swagging.
Dude, I love it. Born in London.
You want to leave that in there and I'll swoop in after the show?
Nope. This one's mine.
Oh, got you.
This one's
you
mine.
Get one for me.
You can't touch it. I didn't get one for me.
Oh.
It was just here, and it's mine.
I see.
But I need it. That's what Aaron Weldon says.
Where are my gifts,
was that an
Chris?
all right SpongeBob on the spot? I need one too, SpongeBob. Like, we can just go down the rail. Can we say that teams from Texas are dumb? It's a good episode, by the way.
Great one.
Good episode of South Park. But yeah, or not South Park, SpongeBob. My gosh, totally different shows.
Classic.
But yeah, first 7,777 fans will get this. Of course, you get the ticket, then you can redeem it on your way out. This thing is a thing of beauty, though. You got Timberline up there, the basket on top of Mount Dunk, 49-inch fur. It's beautiful. It's pretty. Marcus says that was an all right SpongeBob. I used to work on like his laugh forever. Like that's all right too, right? Like I should have got into voice acting. What the heck am I doing over here? You ever do voices, Brenden?
Oh yeah, not very good, Chris. But if you were to ask, my folks, those that I live with, impersonations can definitely be one of Brendan's things, especially if I have a little liquid courage.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Then I can really start to impersonate some folks.
I like it.
But I will say this, not very good. I'm like, I self-admitted can be better, but I got a few that can make you chuckle.
That's good. That's funny.
I got to shout out Airworld.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Burkhardt?
Okay, this is
I don't
great.
know. I'm feeling something. I'm having too much fun with you guys. T-Mac Creator says 10 out of 10 impersonation. Also, don't let him fool you. Alex likes T-Mac so much that's his username. That's right. Join the chat, Alex. Have some fun. I love it. You guys are just, you're way too much fun. This is great. But I did say I want to talk about what's coming up on with the Blazers looking ahead, right? So trade deadline is coming up February 6th. So that is just a few weeks away. And remember, I'll keep this in mind, my friends, that until pen hits paper and paper hits league office and things are done, nothing's true. Rumors are rumors are rumors. You might hear and can we stop with like these veiled like they're sourced, but there's no source to it. Source. Teams have called the Trailblazers about Jeremy Grant. Yeah. No duh. Any GM worth their weight who needs an improvement at that position is calling every single team to see what they have available. Oh, sources. Blazers might trade DeAndre Ayton, and some teams have shown interest. Yeah, no duh. Joe Cronin called a team and asked about a player. You don't say. And when you say, oh, Chris, like that's so random. Called a team and asked about a player. Like Shams half the time is like one step away from that being the tweet. Like everything right now is just rumors. until you get really, really close to that deal getting done, and then it hits, and then things start to clear up. So again, just don't trust everything. Don't trust everything, except your gut. Trust your gut. That's worth trusting. But the Blazers, how are they going to fare? Because they got Brooklyn coming up at home on Tuesday. Then, of course, the Clippers on Thursday for Shade and Sharp Glass night. These are not terribly easy games, despite Brooklyn being right where Portland is record wise. It's a good team on the good team. They're a team that is showing some strides and moving forward. Right. LA's obviously LA. Houston's Houston. Chicago, meh. And then they go back on the road. Miami, Orlando, Charlotte. Okay, you're like, oh, things are getting easier. Well, then guess what they have? Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, 2 games against Phoenix, the Pacers, the Kings, Minnesota, 2 games against Denver. Yeah, things can get gnarly here pretty quick. But we got to get out of here. Music says it's time to go. Shout out to my buddy Alex for joining me. That won't be the last time you hear from him. Go download the Unbiased Blazers podcast. Blazers will be taking on the Nets on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. Oh, man. 7 o'clock tip. I'll have Blazers game day for you. 5 o'clock. Haven't said this in a while. Rip City, as always. I love you.